when we think about this, these layers of AI, there's two parts to the question. One is, what does the ramp look like? And this is a 30% step up. If you look at Jensen Huang's comments from Nvidia this week, he talked about the chip, the GPU market being several $100 billion over the next few years. It's about $100 billion today. So that kind of plays along this trajectory of 25% growth. I think what your listeners should take away here is that there is a significant investment, a massive investment going on from these hyperscalers, these big tech companies. This is the first of 4 waves of investment that will probably last a decade. Wow. And as far as what it means for our lives, I think it's going to be the most profound change, much more than what the internet was. Last time we spoke about this spectrum that I have in terms of how to think about AI relative to our lives. I put a spectrum of 0 to 100, electricity is 100, the PC was a 20, mobile 25, internet 50, and AI is 99, and it would be 100 if not for needing that electricity. So this is a big deal, and I think that your listeners should just take away that the significance of this change is going to be more profound than the internet.
Gene, I want to frame this as something maybe we understand, unlike experts like you. I think of all the other compatriots in tech, Dan Ives and such. And that is, there was the Model T, which was like, okay, well, that's a fad. And then in 1927, 1930-ish, the Model A showed up, and Alfred Sloan was over at GM trying to make magic happen. And it was like, whoa, wait, this automobile is going to be a real deal. Maybe it's actually going to work. Where are we within that continuum? Are we looking at AI as a fad? Are we to the Model A? Or are we to the Ford F-150 pickup truck where it's entrenched, AI's entrenched in society?
So from the impact to society right now, it's a Model T, and it is, we're just still scratching the surface. And just to put some context on that, is that most of that spend, when we see this just breathtaking change in NVIDIA's business, I want to just take a pause for a moment and put how breathtaking of a change this is. NVIDIA's business for the previous 3 quarters before the AI liftoff was down an average of 17% per quarter. This business was in the toilet. And it has now, since the 3 quarters that it's taken a step up, it is up 200% on average per quarter. And so what we're seeing is this dramatic step up. And when we think about most of that spend, the vast majority of it has been related to those hyperscalers building the Model T. It's related to, but there has been an important data point that Jensen Huang talked about in the NVIDIA call, is that 40% they now believe of their current sales of chips are currently powering inference. Inference is what comes out of the model. When you go into ChatGPT and put in a prompt and you get something back out, that's something that you get back out is called an inference. And so what that means is that people are actually using this. This is not big tech spending a bunch of money to build something that they hope people will come. This is big tech recognizing that the behavior is already there, even though it's nascent. It's taking off in concert, in lockstep with what their investment is. And so when I think about, we're going to go from the Model T to the F-150 to the Cybertruck in about 3 to 5 years. And I think when you put that type of a scope and scale, most of the commentary I hear is this is an NVIDIA-led rally, and this is, are we getting bubble-ish? We're not even close to bubble. Bubble is when the market trades at 100 times earnings. We're at 28 times.
Paul, Microsoft, $415 per share.
It's been another great way to play. Gene, I have to admit here, in cocktail parties, I definitely use your kind of spectrum thing there, talking about electricity and where AI fits in. I give you full credit, though. I want you to know. But
appreciate that. Thank you, Paul.
It works. It really takes people's breath away, to just give it some context. So, Gene, I want to talk about competition here. When are the AMDs of the world or the other chip makers going to step up and be real competitive here? Maybe some of the customers, like an Apple, saying, hey, we can build our own chips. Talk to us about how you think competition is going to evolve.
So look for competition to start to have a meaningful impact on, at least on NVIDIA's business, probably in 2 to 3 years. And specifically, as we think about AMD, they're actually getting some traction. They're actually putting a significant effort into GPUs. Intel has just started that, but it's still just too nascent. We're talking about low single-digit % market share of GPUs. AMD is kind of around that 10%. Nvidia is around 85%. And so what it is, the most important point to your question is it's not just about what the absolute market share is today, it's about what the trend in the market share is. Is AMD going to gain share? And my expectations is over the next couple of years, NVIDIA's market share is probably going to be 70% or above. They may lose a little bit. They'll lose probably most of it to AMD, but it's still going to be huge share in what is a quickly growing market. Beyond that 3 to 5 years, that's when things start to get more difficult. And I believe that AMD is going higher. I believe eventually, 3 to 5 years, it's going to hit the wall because of what you talked about. Ultimately, these hyperscalers are going to back off. But one of the benefits that NVIDIA has here is that they will lose business to the hyperscalers when they come out with their own chips. But it's unlikely those hyperscalers sell their chips to third parties. And if you think about these 4 waves of AI, there's still 3 more waves that need to be powered by publicly available GPUs like NVIDIA.
Right.